Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thanks for tuning in. Today we look at summary statistics. So we're just going to look at 6 different statistics that you probably already know of, and we're going to use them to calculate things about data. So we just need to make sure today that we understand all these so we can use it to make comparisons in future lessons. So let's start. So let's just say I have a random set of numbers. Let's say 7, 7, 4, 8, 12, 7. Okay, so the first 3 that I'm going through you know about already. So you remember the mean. To find that out, you just add up all the scores and divide by how many there are. So in this case there are 6 scores, which is why I'm dividing by 6. And so here the mean is just 45 over 6, which is 7.5. Of course, the mean doesn't need to be one of the scores, and it doesn't need to be a whole number. So remember, to find the median, what you need to do is put the data in order from smallest to largest. So let's go ahead and do that quickly. So we've got 4, 7, 7, 8, and 12. So when there is an even number of scores, as there are in this case, there are 2 middle numbers, and you take the average of those. So these are the 2 middle numbers. So the median is just the average of those, which will itself be 7. Okay? So the mean, which is the average sum of all the scores divided by how many there are, is 7.5. The median, which is the middle point, the point at which there are the same number of scores above this and below it. The median here is 7. The mode is very easy to find out. It's just the most common score. So here, 7 is the only number repeated. So the mode is also 7. So the mean 7.5, median 7, and mode is also 7. Remember, if no numbers are repeated, then we say that the data set has no mode. So recall all 3 of these are measures of central tendency. So the idea here is that these 3 are supposed to give you an indication of where the center of your data is. They're summarizing the data with one number. So what we'll see in later lessons is that we very rarely use the mode to tell us where the center of the data is. We pretty much only use that if a question asks what was the most popular score or which score occurred the most. But the mean and median are useful under different circumstances, and we'll learn what those circumstances are next lesson. So they're the 3 measures of central tendency, and now we're going to look at the 3 measures of spread. So please pause and copy this down if you need. Okay, so the 3 measures of spread. Firstly, we have the range you would know already. So that's really simple. That's just the highest score minus the lowest score gives us 8. Now, similar to that is the interquartile range, or the IQR. So to do that, we have to calculate quartiles. So the difference between the range and the interquartile range is the range just involves the smallest and largest observation. The interquartile range basically ignores the top 25% of the scores and the bottom 25% of scores. So if we want to put these into quartiles, put these numbers, they again have to be ordered. So I'm going to write them from smallest to largest. So remember, the way we do quartiles is this. We split up the groups into the top half and the bottom half. So Q1 is the median of the lower half. In this case, there's 3 scores in the lower half, so the median is one of the scores. And same for the top half. Q3 is the median of the top half. So the interquartile range here is Q3 minus Q1, which gives you 1. So it's ignored basically the top and the bottom score. So the range and the interquartile range are quite different. They tell a very different story. And we'll learn about which is more useful under which circumstances next lesson. The last measure of spread that you've gone through is the most complicated. It's the standard deviation. So remember, to calculate that, we have to do a series of steps. So the first thing we have to do is calculate the mean, which I did earlier is 7.5. Then we take each score, subtract the mean and square it, and then add all those up. So we take each score, subtract the mean and square it. Now because there were 3 scores that were 7, I can just times that by 3. And I've got to do that for all the scores and add them up. And then remember, I divide by how many scores there are and square root it. Okay, so I'm taking each score, subtracting the mean and squaring it, and then adding all those up. So just be aware, if you're doing it the way I've done here, you've got to make sure you respect order of operations. So if I'm doing this one here, I have to do the squared part first. So if I put this in my calculator, add them all up, I should get the number 33.5. So that is basically the sum of squares. So then to find the standard deviation, it's going to be the square root of the sum of squares divided by the number of scores. So if I put that on my calculator, I get about 2.36. So that basically means that on average, each score was 2.36 away from the mean. That's just a crude way to look at it. So all of these are measures of spread. We've got different numbers for each of them here, so they tell a different story. Some are more useful under different circumstances than others are, and we'll look at that in subsequent lessons. So for now, just make sure you understand the 3 measures of central tendency and how to calculate them, and the 3 measures of spread and how to calculate them. And we'll use these to compare sets of data. Hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.